FYI, just so you know, I have been having a strange eyelid twitch for about a week. So if my eyelid twitches, just act like it didn't happen, okay?
You're not looking at anybody.
I don't know why. I don't know why. I thought, okay.
So annoying too.
Oh,
hate
it's
that.
so annoying. Oh my gosh.
It
I'm
can
like,
last for weeks too.
oh, great. Oh, good to know. Thank you. Thank you.
Bit of encouragement.
Yeah. It was actually the opposite, but that's fine.
Stress? Is it why you stressed?
I mean, I'm busy, but I'm not overly pulling my hair out or anything. So I don't know if I just need to sleep more or something. I told Zeke heard me talking about it. I was like, yeah, I guess I'm not taking care of myself good enough or something. And he gets up, he marches over to the kitchen, and he points at the coffee maker. He goes, "Throw that thing away!" And I was like, whoa now. Like, I really don't drink that much coffee. One cup, that's it.
That's funny.
Oh, that's cute though. All right, we're in Joshua 7 tonight. Let's see, how many do we have? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and we have 26 verses. So I guess let's do 3 verses and then the last person's just gonna get a few. Is that all right? Or I guess no, that wouldn't work. 2 verses, then I'll get a bunch, and that's okay. Molly, do you want to start?
But the people of Israel broke faith in regard to the devoted things. For Achan the son of Carmi, son of Zabdi, son of Zerah, of the tribe of Judah, took some of the devoted things, and the anger of the Lord burned against the people of Israel. Joshua sent men from Jericho to Ai, which is near Beth-aven, east of Bethel, and said to them, "Go up and spy out the land." And the men went up and spied out Ai.
When they returned, they told Joshua, "There's no need for all of us to go up there. It won't take more than 2,000 or 3,000 men to attack Ai. Since there are so few of them, don't make all our people struggle to go up there." So approximately 3,000 warriors were sent, but they were soundly defeated. The men of Ai chased the Israelites from the town gate as far as the quarries, and they killed about 36 who were retreating down the slope. The Israelites were paralyzed with fear at this turn of events, and their courage melted away.
Then Joshua tore his clothes and fell face down to the ground before the ark of the Lord, remaining there till evening. The elders of Israel did the same and sprinkled dust on their heads. And Joshua said, "Ah, sovereign Lord, why did you ever bring this people across the Jordan to deliver us into the hands of the Amorites to destroy us? If only we had been content to stay on the other side of the Jordan."
Pardon your servant, Lord. What can I say now that Israel has been routed by its enemies? The Canaanites and the other people of the country will hear about this, and they will surround us and wipe out our name from the earth. What then will you do for our own great name? Your own great name, sorry.
Are you gonna read? Oh. And the Lord said unto Joshua, "Get thee up, wherefore art thou?" Oh, mine's so hard. "Why have you fallen upon your face? Israel has sinned. Yes, they have even transgressed my covenant which I commanded them. Yes, they have even taken of the devoted thing, and have also stolen, and dissembled also. And they have even put it among their own stuff."
Does it say stuff?
Put that down for translation. I jumped to the wrong line, and they put it among their children. I thought, that doesn't sound right. Wrong line.
Their stuff.
Their stuff, verse 12.
Very living Bible.
Wow.
Therefore the sons of Israel cannot stand before their enemies. They turn their backs before their enemies, for they have become accursed. I will not be with you any more unless you destroy the things under the ban from your midst. Rise up, consecrate the people, and say, "Consecrate yourselves for tomorrow, for thus the Lord, the God of Israel, has said, there are things under the ban in your midst, O Israel, You cannot stand before your enemies until you have removed the things under the ban from your midst.
Oh, these are really different words. In the morning, present yourselves tribe by tribe. The tribe that the Lord takes shall come forward, clan by clan. The clan that the Lord takes, just a minute. Shall come forward, clan by clan. The clan that the Lord takes shall come forward, family by family. And the family that the Lord takes shall come forward, man by man. He who is caught with the devoted things shall be destroyed by fire, along with all that belongs to him. He has violated the covenant of the Lord and has done a disgraced thing to Israel.
Early the next morning, Joshua and Israel came forward by tribes, and Judah was taken. The clans of Judah came forward, and he took the Zerahites. He had the clan of the Zerahites come forward by families, and Sim was taken. Joshua had his family come forward, man by man, and Achan, son of Carmi, the son of Zumri, the son of Zerah, of the tribe of Judah, was taken.
Then Joshua said to Achan, "My son, I implore you, give glory to God, the God of Israel. Give praise to him. Tell me now what you have done. Do not hide it from me." So Achan answered Joshua and said, "Truly I have sinned against the Lord, the God of Israel, and this is what I did. When I saw among the spoil a beautiful mantle from Shinar, and 200 shekels of silver, and a bar of gold 50 shekels in weight, then I coveted them and took them, and behold, they are concealed in the earth inside my tent, with the silver underneath it."
Sorry to be late.
That's okay. They took them from inside the tent and brought them to Joshua and to all the sons of Israel, and they poured them out before the Lord. Then Joshua and all of Israel with him, took Achan, the son of Zerah, the silver, the mantle, the bar of gold, his sons, his daughters, his oxen, his donkeys, his sheep, his tent, and all that belonged to him, and they brought them up to the valley of Achor. Joshua said, "Why have you troubled us? The Lord will trouble you this day." And all Israel stoned them with stones, and they burned them with fire after they had stoned them with stones. They raised over him a great heap of stones that stands to this day, and the Lord turned from the fierceness of his anger. Therefore the name of that place has been called the Valley of Achor to this day. Let me see if I can get another sheet for you, because I ran out.
Oh, we have to copy it?
Yes. Do you mind if I borrow yours and I'm just going to copy it real quick? That's okay. Thank you. Yep.
Joshua said that's where we are.
Yes, yeah.
You know that, you're on the ball. Good.
I see.
Wanda, I can't go tomorrow. I think I'm supposed to drive tomorrow.
First time I saw
Is
the
Tracy
I have
out
now,
tomorrow?
he was so
Or is she
good.
sick?
And he looked down at my shoes and he said,
Well, that's why she's home today, so you'll have to,
"It made a huge difference."
or you better just text her.
Okay. So I might have one, but I
Whatever
don't
you
know.
want. It lasts about 5 days, so.
So maybe I will run this out.
What does she have?
Oh, just,
The flu.
crud.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know exactly, but.
that's true.
Because you touch it.
Yeah.
It seems normal.
Right, it's not.
No, I'm still, tomorrow I might do research on it.
Well, you don't Well, maybe I don't have as much. I took a picture of how they had it. And then I went,
Yeah.
I don't think there's quite that
There's
much.
a hole back
Well,
here,
they can have
and I desperately need a hair.
Plus
So,
they're
it's time.
looking at us like this and they're not in word, flipping their
I
hair.
know, I'm a good hair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Of course.
Yeah.
All right. Now, I completely forgot to do this at the beginning. Who's the author of Joshua? Good job. Who wants to tell me the date it was written?
he does.
To some background music. All right.
And the award
Ooh,
goes.
$13.99, good job. So who wants to tell me the purpose?
Oh, it's a long statement.
It
Do you want me to
was.
read it?
Oh, did you save it from another?
Just in case.
You got a trick up her sleeve. Just a paraphrase of it, the gist of it. Does not have to be word for word what I wrote.
What was the question we were visiting?
Welcome back.
Different phone, yeah. What was the question?
If someone wants to tell me what the purpose of Joshua, the book of Joshua is, doesn't have to be word for word what I've written, just needs to be the gist of it.
God's fulfillment to give the land of Canaan to Israel. So,
Yes, that's right. It's the historical account of it.
Historical.
Yes, of God fulfilling his promise. Yep. Good job. All right, and then we have our key verse. That's gonna be a hard one sometime, guys.
Ooh. What's this?
Don't worry, I don't expect too much. Okay, so we read it. Our rough outline, we've got Joshua sending spies to Ai. Okay, funny story. I have a software, Bible study software called Logos, and it's awesome because I can click a word and it helps me with the pronunciation of it. So for a lot of these really difficult words, it's really cool to hear it, except it's impossible to replicate because it's things like Achan, well we say Achan, which we're gonna continue to say Achan, because it's Achan. It sounds like somebody's sick. What was the other one? I think it was, yes, in verse 21 where he says he stole of the beautiful mantle, or some translations say robe or garment, from Shinar. It's like Shinar, and it does this like throaty thing. So it was really funny. Oh, and AI is actually I.
I was gonna tell you a funny story. When we were in college, we were studying Joshua, and when we talked about AI, Ron raised his hands and he says, "How do you spell AI?" That to this day.
And you said, that's the boy for me.
Phonetically. Phonetically. That's great. Oh my goodness.
I'm gonna talk to you about that on Sunday.
Hey Ron, how do you spell AI?
I thought you were gonna say it had to do with artificial intelligence.
Right, that's where my mind went.
Yeah.
Speaking it, yeah.
No, this was
AI,
a
that's how
real
you get
person.
this Artificial intelligence. stuff.
Yeah. No, this is a real person who was very, very good at his accent. I took that early things, so. Okay, so Joshua is sending spies to Ai, very similar to what he did with Jericho, and it's reported to him that's going to be a very easy victory. So he only sends 3,000 men, and unfortunately, they are soundly defeated. So Joshua is distraught. He prays to God. He's questioning why they were defeated. God tells Joshua that Israel has sinned by taking banned items, and he reveals through a series, a process here, that it's Achan who committed this sin. And Achan eventually confesses, and the stolen items are found in his tent, and he's sentenced to death. He and his whole family, with everything that belongs to them, they're stoned and burned. So that is our rough outline. Let's go on to any thoughts and questions that we have about this chapter.
I had wondered why Joshua didn't seek the Lord before the battle.
That's a
And
good
if the
question.
Lord would have told him then, you're going to lose unless you find the banned item.
Yep. That is a very good thought. All right, what else?
that's deep thinking.
Gold star.
It says here that Achan confesses.
Mhm.
but God still didn't forgive him for that,
He
right?
didn't let it go.
Okay, let it go, that makes,
Yeah,
Makes
I would say, yes, he confessed, which was the right thing to do.
there's still
However,
a
There's still
there's still a
consequences.
consequence.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And he didn't confess right away. Like, he
Correct.
hid it. They had to go through the whole Israelite
thing.
tribe before his claim was brought up.
Yeah, and it's only until Josh was going, I know you did something wrong.
Exactly, what did you do wrong? Like, it's you.
We know it's you, so.
Then he confessed.
Yeah, yeah.
And I wonder, I mean, there was probably still a punishment, but I just wonder what would have happened if he would have confessed first.
Yeah, that would be really interesting to know, because I think that there is something to a lot of these really harsh, what we think of as harsh reactions or punishments to sin is actually setting the standard here. It's telling people very, very clearly, this is what happens when you break God's covenant law. And, you know, if you were to react with, we'll let you off with a slap on the wrist, that sends a message to people that they can kind of relax a little bit. So it would be really interesting to know, where would the grace be in, good job for confessing right away, but also there needs to be a punishment, right? Yeah, that would be interesting to know. What else?
I also thought it was always interesting that his family was killed with him. And like, did they know about it? Or like, just kind of how that worked.
Yeah, that is interesting.
In the Sunday school story we had about this, he buried everything really deep in the ground. He just didn't hide it in his tent. And he put the most expensive, like the gold and the silver, the very bottom, everything else on top of that. So he thought he could get away with it.
Yeah.
Because they'd never find it.
I thought it was really funny with the garment or robe or mantle, whatever your translation says. When was he gonna wear that?
Yeah.
You know, as soon as he stepped outside wearing that, it would be so obvious.
Yeah.
He would
He couldn't
stand
wear
out. Just wondered, when were you gonna wear that?
Or was he gonna try to like sell it somewhere?
So-
Ooh,
Like
maybe.
for money? But
Maybe.
still, I feel like,
Or just to have something pretty.
yeah.
Yeah.
To possess it.
Just to possess it. Yeah. Because silver and gold, I can see that, there's a lot of options there, but the Babylonian robe or whatever it was from Shinar or whatever it was, yeah, that's different. I'll have one. Why does one man's sin affect the entire nation? Anything else? The other thing that I thought of that was just interesting was, for quite a few chapters now, we've seen all these other nations and their response to Israel. And it's the same phrasing time and time again, their hearts melted away with fear. And now we have this defeat of Israel's defeat, and it says that their hearts melted away. And it's like, oh, it's their turn to experience that. That's really interesting. It's been flipped on them. And why were the pagan nations, melting away in fear? It's because they were living in wickedness, and God was giving punishment to them. And now it's flipped on Israel, which I think is kind of just an interesting turn there. I don't know why I was putting that away.
So had they already been told that they needed to take everybody or a lot of their people? Because they came up with the idea that don't let all the people go up, let's just do this small number. and-
So, I'm not sure exactly. It doesn't tell us a lot of detail on this, but I think Mary Lee kind of hinted at that. Why didn't Joshua consult God on this? But he also didn't consult God when he sent spies to Jericho either. God came to him then saying, here's the plan for Jericho. But he didn't consult God before he sent the spies. So my thought is, and this is just a thought, is that when the spies came back reporting, this is a really easy one, then he was thinking, well, there's no need to go to God and figure out what's the plan here. It's no Jericho. We got this one in the bag. I won't bother him, you know. That's my personal thoughts on it.
Didn't God tell Joshua, a chapter or two back, that as long as they followed his rules of destroying everything, and some of it was to go to
The treasury.
the treasury,
Right,
that they would be assured victory.
right.
And so Joshua, not knowing what Achan had done, probably made an assumption too.
Yes, that's a very good point.
But I still wondered why he didn't, again, just,
Yeah. We're all good, right?
yeah. Now, do we go now?
Yeah. Yeah, just checking.
So it was like a promise God made to Joshua.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And so Joshua is treating that promise as a true
And that's how
promise.
they've been going, they've been
Yeah,
victorious.
yes, absolutely. Good point. Does that help answer your question, Sarah?
She forgot her question. Your question was, why did they only take?
Just say yes.
We're a little tired.
In a really roundabout way.
Here's my question, how do you spell AI?
Phonetically.
Okay.
It was something about all of them versus not all of them, right?
Oh,
Yes,
Yes.
yes, it was.
Good question.
Thank you.
But I think, Mary Lee, I think you've got a good point. The promise was, you obey my commands and how you're going about conquering, and everything's good. You have victory no matter what. And Joshua at this point, he has no reason to suspect that something is off. So, unfortunately that wasn't true. All right, translation changes. Did anybody notice anything other than stuffs?
Stuff.
I love that so much. Is that KJV? Or is that NKJV?
This is new American Standard.
Okay,
It's not a real common,
yeah,
but I find it, a lot of times it's
This
very
is New
accurate.
American Standard,
Yes.
and that's not what mine
That's
says.
American and not New American?
Mine's revised, maybe, revised. What years was yours? 1901?
I think, I don't know, Ralph ate that page out, you can see here.
Mine is translated out of the original tongues, right there.
whoa,
I don't know.
stuff.
Yeah,
And they had stuff.
Apparently.
out of the original tongue.
I want to know what the Hebrew word for stuff
Stuff.
is, so I can use it. People are like, what do you got in the bag? And then I'll just spit out some Hebrew words and stuff.
Yeah, it'd be fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would.
It'd probably have some kind of. in it.
Oh, shoot, you're right. There's gonna be a throaty thing going on with that one, isn't there? Oh, man, stick to English.
There were so many, I was trying to remember 'em. There was something in your very first verse, I thought. I have violated the instructions.
Mm-hmm.
Did you, was that? one?
Broke faith in regard to the devoted things.
Oh, I
Okay.
like that.
Broke faith.
I like that. And on ASB, it's acted unfaithfully, which I
Okay.
think kind of goes hand in hand with that. Anybody have the NKJV?
I have committed a trespass, which. you
Yes,
have
that
there.
is what the NKJV says, so I like that one as well.
I agree with you, there were so many.
Yeah, there was something with Diane's too, and now I don't remember what verses you read. I did too, it was so different that I was like, wait, now what?
The sentences are completely
no.
flipped.
Yes, they are.
I'll get to the end and then the person keeps going. Anyways,
Yes.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
So she moved in, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4,
See, I did, what,
7, 8,
9 and 8 and 9?
You did 7, 8.
Lord, what can I say now that Israel has been routed by its enemies? The Canaanites and the other people of the country will hear about this, and they will surround us and wipe out our name from the earth. What then will you do for your own great name?
just realized I'm in the wrong chapter, that's why I couldn't find the verse you were reading, I was like, yes,
Way different.
I was like, that's not what mine says at all.
What does yours say in 7? Mine says, then Joshua cried out.
Josh was there.
You mean 6
Mine
or
is
7?
7. Right chapter, 7.
It says, alas,
Why did you do that?
alas, sovereign Lord.
The other thing I thought of is that, again, when things didn't go their way, their default seems to be, why did you bring us here?
Yeah, yes.
I mean, they really had come quite a ways by this point,
Yeah,
but that's what he says in verse 7. Why have you brought us, why did you bring us here? Why didn't you leave us
yeah.
on the other side of the Jordan?
I think that's really interesting, because I'm wondering, and I wondered this myself when I was reading it, is this just part of the dialogue, like revealing the doubt that's in his heart or anything like that, or is it unbelief? Is it? I wondered what's behind those words. I don't know. I can't tell you, but I'm curious myself because I thought of that as well. His response, his first response to God about it is, why?
It's kind of dramatic.
Yeah.
My verse 9 says, for the Canaanites and all the inhabitants of the land will hear of it and will surround us and cut off our name from the earth. And what will you do for your great name?
Yeah.
I don't know, he just seems kind of dramatic, like, what are you gonna do about this, God? Like,
Yeah,
kind of pushing it back on him when
Yes.
really it's like their fault for not.
Yeah. He sounds like Moses there.
Yes.
Anybody else think that?
Yes.
Moses is always concerned about what are the nations going to say about the God of Israel, the one true God. What are they going to say about him when they hear that you wiped us all out, or you whatever, that you turned your back on your own people? What are they going to say?
I guess Moses was a good teacher.
Yeah. Joshua's following in the same footsteps there.
But it feels a little manipulative to be saying, you're gonna wipe us out. What are you gonna do then about your great name?
Yeah. Yeah.
God, you should be concerned for yourself here.
Yes.
Yeah. I wondered though if some of it is just the dialogue of that time. You know, I mean, we do very exaggerated speech as well here, you know.
Where do you
This
get
week is
that?
crushing me, you know? Yeah.
I don't get it.
Okay, that's fine. You know, we do exaggerated speech as well, so I wonder if this is their version of, I mean, clearly they just had something really, truly horrible happen. They're stunned to see what should have been a victory, according to God's promise, was not a victory. That's like a huge blow to them. 36 men died. I mean, this should have been so easy. They're just totally baffled at this, and so I wonder if it's part of the dramatic speech of the day, I guess.
36 up and down 3,000 isn't that bad.
No, it's not. It's really not. But what should have been this easiest victory ever. 36 probably seemed like, and the rest of them were probably like dragging along, the survivors, So, yeah,
The
you're right.
fact that any died at all was a shock.
Yeah,
because
I think so.
They expected a victory, an easy victory.
Right. I mean, when they've got thousands and thousands and they were like, you only need to send like 2 or 3, it's gonna be an easy one. And then the fact that anybody died, like you said. Couple other the translation changes that I noticed. Verse 13, just to help us always remember that word consecrate the people. It can also be sanctify or purify in preparation. It's just good to always have a different word there to better understand it, since it's not a word that we use regularly. And then in verse 26, the very last one, where it talks about the valley of Achor, NLT and possibly other translations say valley of trouble, and that is exactly what Achor means, is trouble. So that helps kind of explain that. From what I gather, they named it that because of what happened there. Not, it was already named that and something just so happened to happen there. Okay, so let's move on to people and their roles in this chapter. What happened with Joshua in this chapter?
Delegated them to go check it out.
Mm-hmm. Yep. He's actually a pretty good leader, we're finding out. And not just spiritual leader, but military leader. And we're seeing both of those things here in this book of Joshua. The spies, they say it's going to be an easy one, and unfortunately they were wrong. Joshua then is stepping into a mediator role then, right? Is between God and the people, because something is off, something is wrong. And so he's calling out to God to find out what's going on. What was God's role in this chapter?
Judge?
Yeah.
He was kind of a judge against them.
And Achan.
Gesundheit.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
The one in trouble.
Yes. He is the trouble, the guilty party. All right, let's look at a few cross-references. Joshua 6:18, just one chapter over. It's going to remind us about this ban.
That's you. There you go, foreshadowing.
Did you have a dream about it?
Yeah. Triplets.
Yeah. Happy to say that still hasn't happened. We're good.
That we know of.
We're in the clear. Okay, Joshua 6:18, but as for you, only keep yourselves from the things under the ban, so that you do not covet them, and take some of the things under the ban and make the camp of Israel accursed and bring trouble on it. We're literally seeing a fulfillment of this very verse here. Basically, you mess with these things, God messes with you. That's the gist of it. John 9:24. And it says, so a second time they called the man who had been blind and said to him, give glory to God. We know that this man is a sinner. And sorry, that's kind of a random one, but it goes along with that verse where Joshua says, give glory to God and confess. And so, or let me see if I can find the exact, in 19 of chapter 7, my son, I implore you, give glory to God, the God of Israel, and give praise to him, and tell me now what you have done. Do not hide it from me. I really think it's interesting, this idea that confession gives glory to God. It's a beautiful thing that we see in Joshua, and we see it in John. Confession gives glory to God. Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. I guess the reason why I thought it was interesting is because I expected to see that in the New Testament. I didn't expect to see that in the Old Testament. I think that's why I liked it so much. Exodus 32:12. And this is Moses speaking. Why should the Egyptians speak, saying, with evil intent he brought them out to kill them in the mountains and to destroy them from the face of the earth. Turn from your burning anger and change your mind about doing harm to your people. So it's very, very similar to what we hear Joshua saying when he's praying to God. And it's, he's saying, don't let the other nations mock your name. Job 2:12. Having you guys go all over the place. And this is Job after he loses everything and his friends come. It says in verse 12, when they lifted up their eyes at a distance and did not recognize him, they raised their voices and wept, and each of them tore his robe, and they threw dust over their heads toward the sky. And I think that kind of helps us to better understand what Joshua and the elders did. It wasn't just tearing a robe and throwing dirt on themselves. This was a moment of mourning and grief and just deep emotion when they kind of just really humbled themselves. And they did that before they came to God. So, last one, Proverbs 16:33. The law is cast into the lap, and its every decision is from the Lord. And I think that that's a really good one to read alongside this chapter, because a lot of times when we think of casting lots, it just seems like there's not a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? It just seems very by chance and, random. Yes, thank you. But to then read this verse along with it, that its every decision is from the Lord, and we pair that with this chapter, it really sets it into place that God, this is just God's method of revealing his decision. Doesn't mean that it's any random, doesn't mean that God doesn't know what he's doing, doesn't mean that Achan was the wrong decision at the end of it. God was in control of every single roll of that lot, I guess, whatever it is. Some sort of gambling thing. I don't know. I would be interested to know what they look like. Oh, are they very similar to our, our dice or something, or are they totally different? I have no idea. It'd be really interesting.
I always wonder that, what does that look like to cast lots?
Yeah. I know people have tried to come up with ideas, but I wonder how close they got. Yeah. All right. Any other thoughts on this before we do the summary? Okay, so we'll just go through the chapter here. We've got chapter 7 right on the tail end of their victory at Jericho. And then we've got, actually the very first thing that it tells us is this sin of Achan, and how the Israelites are defeated because of this, and because he took some of the plunder for himself. Now, I'll say this, I don't know for certain what he took, whether it was some of the treasure that was supposed to go into the treasury, whether it was accursed items like idols or something like that. It doesn't say specifically. There are parts of the text that say he took things that were devoted. Not sure if that means devoted to destruction, devoted to the Lord. There are some parts that talk about how it was devoted to God. Some parts talk about how it's accursed things. Translations are very different on it. What we know is he took something he shouldn't. That's all we know, is even if it doesn't actually matter what it was, because either it was supposed to go to God or it was supposed to be destroyed. Either way, it ended up at his house and not where it was meant to be. So that's kind of my thought on that. But we've got that very first verse revealing the guilty party's identity, and the rest of the chapter describes the consequences of his sin. And it's really interesting. One little verse that says what he did, and then the whole rest of the chapter is the consequences of it. So we've got, and then it also says how, in the end of verse 1, therefore the anger of the Lord burned against the sons of Israel. So we're coming back to this question of, if Achan was the lone thief, why was God angry with the whole nation of Israel? Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Well, his covenant was to the nation.
Yes.
It would be kind of hard to parse that out and say only Achan. You lay down with the dogs, you get up with the fleas, but
Yeah, and you're right. There's a very corporate nature to the people of Israel. All of them, not just individually, yes, individually, but not just individually. All of them were to represent God, represent Yahweh. They were to all keep the covenant together. They were to all bear his image and to bear his name to the rest of the nations. And it's very similar to the body of Christ in a similar fashion. We're one body, and if I guess in Corinthians it talks about if one member suffers, then the whole body suffers. I think there is a similarity to that. One of the commentaries that I was reading put it this way: the Israelites were like a football team in one sense. I know, totally doesn't get with little group of ladies, I get that. Maybe some of you, not me. But if one player committed an infraction of the rules, the entire team is penalized. And so I think that kind of helps put that into a better understanding. Yeah.
And too, when we were talking about like the kind of setting the example, the punishment, if you just isolate Achan's sin and like, I don't know, I think the whole Israelites needed to see like, if one person sins, everybody is affected.
It's even more incentive, I guess, to keep the covenant.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
And would that be incentive then to kind of keep watch with each other?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not just for my sake, it's for my family's sake too, because remember, his whole household went with him. It's for their sake as well. It's for my neighbor's sake. It's for everyone's sake. Yeah, really good point. Okay, so unaware of what Achan did, Joshua sent spies to Ai, just like he did to Jericho. And, they were feeling pretty confident because, boy, they just took down Jericho. That's feeling pretty good, right? But yeah, instead of that clean victory like it should have been, they were soundly defeated. And so Joshua, I think, coming back to this heavy dramatic dialogue, he's devastated, he's confused, they humbled themselves before God, and that was how they did that, was in tearing their garments, they're falling face down into the dirt, they're throwing dirt on themselves. It's a sign of mourning, it's a sign of humility. And they're crying out to God, they're confused, and they're questioning why he's delivered them to their enemies. You know, that wasn't the promise. And that's when God reveals, you know, well, there's been a break in that promise. And so that's why. And so Joshua's going to have to deal with this sin in order for God to reverse the circumstances and to fight for them again. So they're commanded to consecrate the whole people. They're dedicating themselves to God, and then they're presented tribe by tribe. God begins this whole process of identifying the guilty party. It's by tribe, then it's by clan, then it's by family, then it's by man. It's you know, narrowing it down. Why do you think God chose to have this whole lengthy process when he could have just, it's that guy? You know? I don't know. What do you guys think?
It would put the fear of the Lord in me.
Oh,
Oof,
uh-huh.
they're coming.
Yeah.
Do a little self-examination.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it gave him time to confess.
God was maybe trying to give him one last chance to
Right.
bring it up himself instead of getting called out.
Yeah, definitely.
I wondered too, when they found the stuff, they put it in front of, it says all the children.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're observing all the process, everyone had to have been there, rather than just, you go get Achan, we know it's him.
Right.
So it sounds like they were all there and they all witnessed it, and then they
Yes.
were also all part of the stoning.
Yes.
But it seems like God wanted everyone to see.
What would
What
that
was
have
going on?
said to, I think that would have really said something to, like you're saying, the rest of the party, the rest of the nation, the people who
Yes,
are there.
Don't mess with God, like your book. Mess
Don't
with
take
sheep.
stuff.
Yeah. But it also says God knows every bit of it. A is not like the other gods of the other nations that are actually blind and don't see individual people and individual deeds. This God sees, and he knows every single person that's part of every single family, every clan, every whatever. When God's narrowing it down, I think that really shows that God really did know each of them intimately. Yeah. So, we come back to Achan. It's only once he's exposed that he confesses, but good on him for confessing at least, instead of trying to deny it. And the items are quickly found in his tent. I did think that it was really interesting. I read this or heard this somewhere. When Achan says, I gotta find it, sorry.
Verse 20.
Yes, actually in 21, when I saw among the spoil a beautiful mantle from Shinar and 200 shekels of silver and a bar of gold, 50 shekels in weight, then I coveted them and took them, and behold, they are concealed in the earth inside my tent with the silver underneath it. Does anyone else's translation say a little differently on that? On the part where he says, I coveted them and took them?
I wanted them so much that I took them.
Yeah. Somebody said that it was very similar to Eve in the garden, kind of saying, I saw it and it was pleasing to the eye, and so I took some and I had some. And I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Just, it is maybe not a full correlation to the two stories, but this idea of the lust of the eyes, you know, that I saw, I wanted, it looked pleasing, and so I took it. Yeah, that was interesting. Joshua then follows God's instructions for how to respond to this. You know, Joshua could have done something differently, but he followed God's instructions to the letter as far as how to respond to this sin. It couldn't have been easy for him to do this, to kill one of their own. But this was how they were going to have the covenant repaired, I guess. And God fighting for them again. So they pronounced Achan and his whole household as guilty and had them all put to death. I don't know if maybe his whole family was co-conspirators in it. I mean, if they're all living together in one tent, don't you think you would know if there was something new in the house, you know, even if it's buried?
I thought it was because it was probably cursed,
Ah,
because it was supposed to have been burned or not taken
sure.
from where Jericho, is that where he got it from?
Mm-hmm.
And just by it being there amongst his things, anything that was his be by transfer.
That's a really good thought. I hadn't thought of
Whether
that.
the wife probably didn't know. They did communicate well.
I don't know, us women see quite a bit.
Men are communicated, but
I might see
women
somebody
see
digging
a
in.
lot,
Yeah.
exactly. They hear
The
it.
oxen didn't have anything to do with that, but that's what
That's a
they
good
should
point.
have, yeah, so it should have been destroyed in Jericho.
Yeah, and that's what I tend to think.
I find it interesting how Joshua and even Moses talks to God when they're upset. They're very angry, right? Almost in God's face.
Very forward. Yeah.
And I think, man, I don't know if I would have the guts to say, well, why didn't you just leave us where we were? I mean, 'cause they say that over and over, and God lets them do that. I mean, he doesn't strike them dead when they talk back. But in verse 10, I kind of laughed because God's like, get up, what are you doing on the ground?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, Joshua probably thought, well, don't you know? But, I mean, it's.
I wonder if
like an
Joshua
interesting
thought-
conversation, but get up.
Yeah.
Do this.
We
and-
got things to do. I wonder if Joshua thought it was his fault somehow.
Well, I wonder.
And maybe that's why,
He thought he was following what God had told him to do.
right, and then he's like, well, shoot, I obviously did something wrong.
Yeah.
The leader here, you know, I did something wrong, led my people astray in some way, and this is all my fault. And then God's like, get up, it's not your
He had
fault.
other people. Who were the other, he had elders.
He had
with him,
elders,
too.
yes.
So that makes you think he thought it was a judgment, definitely a judgment.
Yes,
Anyway, I just think they're
Yes.
pretty bold to talk to God that way.
yeah, you're right,
But, I mean, he can take it, so.
but Moses talked to God that way
That's what
too,
I'm saying,
so I
Moses
wonder,
and Joshua and.
yeah, yeah. I
And
wonder-
God didn't, well, I don't know. But it didn't
Surmise.
seem like he was rebuking them for that.
No, he was mad
Why
about
are you
other
talking
things.
to me
He
that
wasn't
way?
mad about, I mean, Moses flat out said, no, don't destroy the people, because that's the wrong move, you know? I mean, it's very forward to say,
Moses?
God, you're making it wrong, yeah.
Moses and God's interactions, like, they're just amazing. Like, Moses speaking on behalf of the people, like, no, because God was like, I'm gonna kill them all. Moses is like, no, you can't do that. Like, I mean, it's just fascinating.
It is.
Yeah, it's just, yeah. Every time I read it, I'm like, man, that's just so, their relationship was just so
Yeah.
interesting. And
Also, if you take into consideration, I wonder what the conversation actually looked like, because in all of the descriptions we have of God talking to Moses on the mountain, it's like fire
Right.
and storms and like terrifying things. And you're saying no to that?
Right.
You're saying, that's the wrong choice. Let me give you an alternative. Yeah.
And I just think too, like, when we're talking about how God does not condemn them for talking to him that way. And I mean, we're the same way. Like, how often do we get angry at God? Or, maybe we don't say it the same way, but like, I'm prideful. I'm like, why did you do this for me, God? Like, I don't know, I just see some of that same response, I guess, in my own life of like, you said you would do this, why didn't you? Oh, it's because of my sin.
Right.
But like, he's not gonna rebuke us for yelling at him. Like, that's what he wants. He wants that.
Come to me.
He,
and
yes,
talk
come
with
to me and talk
Yeah.
to me. Don't hide it. Don't
Yeah.
keep it a secret. Like, come to me.
Right. But I think it's important to see that in both situations, both Moses and Joshua are basing their argument against God off of a promise he made to them. God promised that he was going to make this his people. And then all of a sudden he's saying, I'm going to wipe y'all out. And Moses is like, no, hold on. You promised. Time out. You promised. Yeah, keep that promise, because what's everybody going to say when they see God not keeping his promise? Again, with Joshua, we see him saying, you can't do that because that's going against your promise that you had. I wonder if that's part of it. So I totally agree with you. Boldly coming to God, we have that invitation to boldly come to him, but also remembering that we are coming to him with the truth that he has spoken already to us, those promises that he has made, and saying, Lord, I know that you promised X, Y, and Z. I don't see how this really fits in with that, so show me. Did I do something wrong? Reveal, if I've sinned, and, if not, then just give me the strength to get through whatever this is, Yeah. Okay, so last bit that we have here is they stone and burn Achan and his family, and the place where that happens is the Valley of Achor, meaning the Valley of Trouble. And Joshua made this heap of stones over their remains, and it's kind of like, reminds us of these memorial stone piles that they've been making regularly. So what do you think that this pile memorializes? What's the thing that it's meant to remind the people?
Don't take other people's stuff.
Yeah. Don't mess with God. He won't mess with you. Okay, and last bit here. This is from a commentary, and I thought it was really interesting, so we're just going to end with it. This judgment on Achan and his family, some can consider it to be too severe of a judgment, but we have to be careful not to soften the seriousness of Achan's sin. He willfully violated God's covenant with Israel. He disobeyed a clear prohibition. He stole what belonged to the Lord. He brought a curse on the nation, and he was responsible for the deaths of 36 men. I think that that's reason enough. Then he invited all of these consequences simply so that he can enrich himself with a few trinkets. The lesson here is this: be careful not to take your own sin lightly. He shows his wrath against sin by letting people experience the consequences of their sinful choices. And let me see. I have one more reference, but I can't remember what it was. So I can't remember if I
Just
actually
gonna go
wrote it.
page by page?
What?
You're just gonna go page by page?
Yeah.
Find it?
No, I have the reference, but I can't remember what it was about. So, all that is that
Shall go through the whole Bible.
It'll come to me.
Sometimes when I'm making my notes, I just throw something on there, and then later I'm like, what was that about? I don't remember, actually. If I can find it, that would be helpful. okay, I'll read a few. It's too much. I had Romans 1, verses 18 to 32. It's a lot, so I won't do the whole thing. But just a few of the verses. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who suppress the truth in unrighteousness, because that which is known about God is evident within them, for God made it evident to them. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood through what has been made, so that they are without excuse. You can read the whole rest of it for yourself, but basically it's just talking about how God has made it very, very evident to people, and so people are still going to choose to have unbelief, and there's consequences for that unbelief, despite the overwhelming evidence. So,
And what's that reference?
Romans 1, verses 18 to 32. So, any other thoughts on this chapter? I'm thinking that we will just do chapter 8 next time, but maybe do 9 just in case. You're gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay. I know. That is. Well, yeah. Okay, just do 8. It'll be fine. We'll just do 8. All right. You happy?
It's less work for you.